They called her the ghost in the machine, the silent janitor who polished the thrones of corporate kings at Sterling Enterprises, a name synonymous with ruthless financial power. But when Imani Washington, armed only with a kind heart and hands weary from honest labor, rescued a fallen billionaire from the abyss of a drunken night, she unknowingly lit the fuse on a bomb of truth. 2 weeks later, at the company's grand assembly, he wouldn't just remember her, he'd propose, and in doing so, expose the rot that festered beneath the gleam, proving that sometimes, the ones who clean the house are the only ones who truly know how dirty it is. What unfolded next was more than justice, it was a corporate crucifixion, and a glorious resurrection. If you've ever felt overlooked or underestimated, this story of karmic reckoning will reaffirm your belief that true worth cannot be hidden forever. Imani Washington moved through the opulent corridors of Sterling Enterprises like a whisper, a shadow in the periphery of ambition. Her days, or rather her nights, were a rhythm of sweeping away the discarded remnants of power plays, wiping clean the surfaces where fortunes were made and lost with a single phone call. She was a woman of quiet dignity, her face often etched with a fatigue that spoke of double shifts and a life lived on the margins, yet her eyes held a profound, observant intelligence. She saw everything, the nervous tics of executives before a market crash, the predatory smiles of brokers closing dubious deals, the sheer, unadulterated waste of resources. Chad Sterling, the CEO's son and vice president of operations, was a particularly noxious fixture in Imani's nightly landscape. He was a creature of pure, unadulterated arrogance, sculpted from inherited wealth and marinated in prejudice. He treated the service staff as less than human, obstacles to be sidestepped or irritants to be swatted away. More than once, Imani had been the target of his casual cruelty. There was the time he'd accidentally appended a tray of expensive catering onto the freshly mopped floor of the executive lounge, laughing with his coterie of sycophants as Imani, on her knees, had to clean the sticky mess, his voice dripping with disdain. Honestly, can't you people watch where you're going? Or rather, where I'm going? Another evening, he'd found her taking a brief, mandated break in an empty conference room, reading a worn paperback. "Is this what my father pays you for?" he'd sneered, his lip curling. "Lounging about? The dirt isn't going to sweep itself, you know. Or perhaps you imagine yourself one of us?" His laughter, sharp and demeaning, echoed in the silent room, each syllable a tiny, painful barb. Imani had simply met his gaze, her own calm and unreadable, before murmuring a quiet, "My apologies, Mr. Sterling," and returning to her duties, her spirit unbent but her heart heavy with the daily erosion of such contempt. The worst, however, came during a late-night incident. Chad, flushed with alcohol after a boisterous celebration of a dubiously acquired contract, stumbled upon Imani meticulously cleaning a scuff mark from the Italian marble floor near his office. He stopped, swaying slightly, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "You know, Imani," he slurred, his voice unnecessarily loud in the empty hallway, "you polish these floors so well. It's almost as if you believe some of the shine might rub off on you." He then deliberately kicked over her bucket of cleaning solution, the grey water spreading like a stain. "Oops. Clumsy me. Clean it up. That's what you're good for, isn't it? Staying in your place, cleaning up other people's messes." He punctuated his venomous words with a short, barking laugh, then strode off, leaving Imani to stare at the spreading puddle, a symbol of the disrespect she endured, her jaw tight, her resolve to simply survive, to observe, hardening into something far more potent. She cleaned it, of course, her movements measured, her mind a vault of such remembered indignities. Several weeks after Chad's latest display of petty tyranny, on a raw, rain-lashed Tuesday night, Imani was completing her final rounds. Near the service exit, huddled in a darkened alcove usually occupied by overflowing refuse bins, she saw a figure slumped against the cold brick. Initially, she thought it was one of the city's many homeless, seeking shelter. But as she drew closer, a glint of an expensive watch beneath a sodden cuff, the cut of the disheveled suit, told her this was someone different. The man was groaning softly, reeking of expensive liquor and despair. He looked utterly broken. It was Alistair Sterling, the patriarch, the titan, the father of her tormentor, Chad. He was almost unrecognizable in his profound disarray, his usual commanding presence dissolved into a puddle of vulnerability. Imani felt a pang of human sympathy that transcended any resentment she might have harbored for the sterling name. He was, in that moment, just an old man, lost and suffering. "Sir," she ventured softly, her voice gentle. "Sir, are you all right?" "You can't stay out here," Alistair mumbled incoherently, his eyes unfocused. With patient persistence, Imani managed to rouse him enough to understand he'd had a terrible personal blow, a catastrophic argument with his son followed by a solitary, ill-advised drinking binge. He was disoriented, his driver long gone. Imani, without a second thought for who he was beyond a person in need, helped him to his feet. He was heavy, leaning on her small frame. "The rain, my heart," he stammered, clearly unwell. She spoke to him in soothing, practical tones, guiding him to a sheltered spot, using her own worn scarf to wipe the rain from his face. She called a reputable cab service, using her own money for the fare, and carefully gave the driver Alistair's home address, which he'd mumbled. As she helped him into the cab, he grasped her hand, his eyes clearing for a moment. You have kind eyes," he whispered, a flicker of his old lucidity returning. "Thank you. What did you say your name was?" "Imani, sir," she replied softly. "Just be well." She offered a simple piece of advice, something her grandmother used to say, "Sometimes, sir, the brightest path forward is found when we are forced to sit in the dark for a spell. It lets our eyes adjust to see what truly matters." He looked at her, a strange, searching expression on his face, before the cab door closed. The following days saw a different Alistair Sterling. Sobered and deeply shaken by his descent, he was haunted by the quiet strength and selfless kindness of the woman who had helped him. That simple phrase, "it lets our eyes adjust to see what truly matters," echoed in his mind. He began to ask discreet questions around the office, trying to identify the night shift janitor with the kind eyes and wise words. When Ched heard his father was looking for some janitor woman who supposedly helped him, his reaction was visceral and immediate. His mind, already suspicious and possessive, leaped to the most cynical conclusion: this lowly cleaner was a gold digger, an opportunist trying to leverage a moment of his father's weakness. She probably picked his pocket too. Chad seethed to his closest sycophant, Marcus Thorne. Father is getting sentimental in his old age. This Imani, or whatever her name is, needs to be put in her place, publicly. I'll arrange a little ceremony at the upcoming company town hall. We'll thank her. It will be a masterclass in dissuading social climbers. His eyes gleamed with malicious anticipation. I'll make her an example, a spectacle. She'll wish she'd never laid eyes on a Sterling. He envisioned it perfectly, the spotlight, the condescending praise, the paltry, dismissive reward, all designed to humiliate her and reassert his dominance. The day of the Sterling Enterprises quarterly town hall arrived, buzzing with an undercurrent of forced corporate enthusiasm. The grand auditorium was packed, from senior executives in the front rows to administrative staff filling the rear. Chad Sterling took the stage, preening under the lights, a vulpine smile playing on his lips. He delivered a typically bombastic speech about market domination and record profits, filled with empty jargon and self-congratulation. Then, his tone shifted, becoming oily and patronizing. "And now," he announced, his voice amplified, "we have a rather unique acknowledgement to make. A moment to recognize one of our humbler colleagues. Miss Imani Washington, from our sanitation department, please come to the stage." A spotlight found Imani, standing awkwardly near the service entrance where she had been instructed to wait. A wave of confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Dressed in her simple, clean work uniform, she looked small and out of place on the vast stage as she hesitantly walked forward. Chad's smile widened. "Imani, dear," he began, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "it has come to our attention, through my father, no less, that a few weeks ago, you performed a service. You apparently assisted him when he was feeling a trifle unwell. A good Samaritan, wouldn't you say, ladies and gentlemen?" A smattering of polite, uncertain applause followed. Chad continued, relishing his moment. "My father, in his generosity, felt you should be acknowledged. So, for your troubles," he produced a crisp $100 bill with a theatrical flourish, holding it between two fingers as if it were contaminated. A small token of our appreciation. Don't spend it all in one place. Now he winked at his cronies in the front row, who snickered appreciatively. Imani stood there, the weight of 1,000 eyes on her, the heat of humiliation rising in her cheeks. For a moment, her composure wavered. Then, a profound calm settled over her. She looked not at Chad, nor at the insulting Bill, but out at the sea of faces. Just as she was about to speak, a side door to the stage opened, and Alastair Sterling himself walked out, looking frail but resolute, his eyes clear and sharp. A hush fell over the auditorium. Chad, Alastair's voice, though not loud, cut through the silence with an edge of steel. That is quite enough. Chad froze, his smug expression faltering. Father? What are you doing? Alastair ignored him, turning to address the stunned audience. 2 weeks ago, he began, his voice gaining strength, I found myself in a position of extreme vulnerability. I was lost, disoriented, and frankly, ashamed. Miss Imani Washington, who stands before you, showed me a profound and selfless kindness. She expected nothing in return. She did not, as my son so crudely implies, seek advantage. In fact, she did not even know who I was. He paused, letting his words sink in. Her decency that night, the simple, profound wisdom she shared with a stranger she believed to be merely an unfortunate old man, prompted me to do something I hadn't done in years. It prompted me to look, truly look, at the people who make this company run. I asked about Imani. And what I discovered shames not her, but this company, and indeed, myself. Alastair's gaze swept the room. What Chad so clearly does not know, or has conveniently forgotten, is that Imani Washington is not merely a janitor. 20 years ago, she graduated summa cum laude with a degree in economics from City University. She was awarded a full scholarship for an MBA at the prestigious Wharton School of Business, an opportunity she had to heartbreakingly forfeit to care for her terminally ill mother. The auditorium was utterly silent now, captivated. Alastair held up a bound document. Furthermore, 15 years ago, Miss Washington submitted an innovative and meticulously researched business proposal to Sterling Enterprises. A proposal advocating for ethical investments in developing sustainable businesses within underserved communities. It was brilliant. It was visionary. It was rejected without a second thought by a newly promoted, arrogant junior executive who dismissed it as unprofitable idealism and a naive charity work. That junior executive, Alastair's eyes bored into his son, was Chad Sterling. A collective gasp swept through the auditorium. Chad's face, moments before a mask of smug superiority, was now a canvas of disbelief, slowly contorting into dawning horror. He looked as if the marble floor beneath his expensive Italian shoes had suddenly turned to quicksand. The $100 bill fluttered from his nerveless fingers, landing unnoticed at Imani's feet. Imani finally spoke. Her voice, though quiet, resonated with an undeniable clarity and strength that commanded the attention of every single person in the room. It was no longer the voice of the subservient janitor, it was the voice of a leader, a thinker, a woman of profound substance. Mr. Sterling, your father, speaks the truth, she said, her gaze steady and unwavering, sweeping across the stunned faces of the executives who had, for years, seen her as nothing more than part of the furniture. That proposal was mine. I poured my heart, my research, and my hopes into it. I believed then, as I passionately believe now, that true, sustainable wealth is not merely about accumulating profit for a select few. It is about fostering growth, creating opportunity, and uplifting entire communities. It is about building legacies, not just quarterly earnings reports. Her eyes found Chad, and for the first time, he visibly recoiled from her direct, piercing gaze. And yes, Chad, I remember you. I remember your office, the dismissive wave of your hand, the condescending smirk on your face. You didn't just reject my proposal, you ridiculed it. You told me, and I recall your exact words with a clarity that 15 years has not dimmed, stick to what you know, little lady. Big ideas are for big players. Well, Chad, I do know. I know this company from the inside out, perhaps better than anyone in this room. Her voice gained intensity. For 15 years, I have silently observed. I've seen the profligate waste in a company that preaches fiscal prudence. I've heard the hushed, desperate conversations behind closed doors about failing strategies and cooked books. I've pieced together the truth from shredded documents carelessly discarded, from nervous whispers in executive washrooms, from the damning figures on spreadsheets left open on unattended desks. I know, for instance, that the Emerald City project you champion so vociferously, the one you're sinking hundreds of millions into, is not the golden goose you present it to be. It is a predatory venture, built on leveraging unsustainable debt within those very same underserved communities I once proposed we ethically empower. Your risk assessments are a fantasy, deliberately ignoring the human factor, the community resilience you so readily dismiss. My proposal detailed a pathway to shared prosperity. Yours, Chad, is a blueprint for exploitation, and it is teetering on the brink of catastrophic collapse. Alastair Sterling nodded, his expression grim, a deep sorrow etched around his eyes as he looked at his son. Indeed, he confirmed, his voice heavy. Following my reawakening, I commissioned an immediate and discreet internal audit of the Emerald City project, an audit you tried to suppress, Chad. Imani's assessment is not only astute, it is terrifyingly accurate. He held up a thick, damning report, its cover stark and official. This project is not just ethically bankrupt, it is a financial black hole, riddled with misrepresentations, regulatory violations, and a level of incompetence that borders on the criminal. It is poised to drag Sterling Enterprises into a maelstrom of lawsuits and public disgrace. The silence in the room was now charged, almost painful. Close-ups could have shown Chad's face, a mask of sheer, unadulterated panic, his carefully constructed world imploding before his very eyes. The sycophants who had been laughing with him moments before now stared fixedly at their shoes, desperately trying to melt into the expensive carpeting, their faces pale with the sudden, chilling realization of their proximity to a falling idol. The weight of Alastair Sterling's disappointment seemed to press down on Chad, a palpable force in the electrified atmosphere of the town hall. The elder Sterling's voice, though laced with a profound, fatherly sorrow, now carried the unmistakable ring of executive authority, cold and final. Chad, he began, his gaze unwavering, fixed on his son's rapidly crumbling composure, for far too many years, I have observed your ambition, mistakenly hoping that wisdom, empathy, and a modicum of humility would eventually temper it. I provided you with every advantage, every opportunity to learn, to grow into a leader of integrity. Instead, you have cultivated an astounding arrogance, a toxic entitlement, and a willful blindness to true human value. You mistook genuine kindness for calculating opportunism, and you dismissed potential brilliance as inconsequential naivete, solely because of a person's job title, their background, their perceived station in your meticulously ordered, prejudiced world. Alastair's voice hardened further, each word a hammer blow against Chad's shattered facade. The Emerald City project, your supposed magnum opus, is hereby suspended indefinitely, pending a full, transparent, and independent investigation by external auditors and regulatory bodies. And you, Chad, Alastair paused, the silence stretching taut, are suspended from all duties and responsibilities as Vice President of Operations, effective this precise moment. Your access to company systems is revoked. Security will escort you from the premises. Chad, finally jolted from his stunned paralysis, erupted. Father! You can't do this. This is absurd. It's her fault, he shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at Imani, his face contorted with rage and disbelief. She's manipulated you. She's a scheming, vindictive nobody. This is a personal vendetta. Alastair Sterling slowly shook his head, a flicker of pity now mixed with the sternness in his eyes. No, son. Imani Washington manipulated no one. She simply acted with a decency you seem incapable of comprehending. She opened my eyes to truths I had become too comfortable, too complacent, to see. Truths about this company, and truths about you. The evidence of your gross mismanagement, your reckless hubris, your blatant discriminatory practices, and potentially criminal negligence is overwhelming and irrefutable. I have seen more than enough. He gestured subtly, and two grim-faced, powerfully built security guards, men Chad had often barked orders at, materialized from the wings and moved purposefully towards him. The board of directors will be fully briefed this afternoon, Alastair continued, his voice devoid of emotion. There will be severe legal and financial repercussions, not only for this company, which we will navigate with integrity, but specifically for you, Chad. Your actions have consequences. Chad's protests devolved into incoherent splutters of denial and outrage as the guards reached him, each taking an arm in a firm, non-negotiable grip. You'll regret this. All of you, he snarled, his eyes darting wildly, seeking any ally in the crowd, but finding only averted gazes and expressions of shock or thinly veiled contempt. The carefully constructed edifice of his power, his reputation, his very identity, had crumbled into dust in a matter of minutes, broadcast live to the entire company. His expensive shoes, once clicking with authority on these marble floors, now scuffed in a pathetic cadence of defeat as he was unceremoniously escorted from the stage and out of the auditorium, a fallen prince in a self-made tragedy. The crisp $100 bill he had so contemptuously offered Imani lay on the stage, a forgotten symbol of his arrogance and ultimate humiliation. In the ringing silence that followed Chad's ignominious exit, Alistair Sterling turned slowly towards Imani. The harsh lines on his face softened, replaced by an expression of profound respect and a touch of weary sadness. The entire room, hundreds of employees, remained frozen, watching with bated breath. This was a corporate drama unfolding unlike any they had ever witnessed. Imani Washington, Alistair began, his voice now imbued with a warmth and sincerity that resonated deeply. 15 years ago, Sterling Enterprises made a grievous error. More accurately, I made an error. I fostered a corporate culture where genuine talent, such as yours, could be so easily overlooked, so carelessly dismissed, simply because it did not arrive in the expected package. Through the conventional channels he took a step closer to her, his eyes holding hers. Your proposal from all those years ago. I have read it cover to cover in these past 2 weeks. It is not merely ethical, as I first thought. It is profoundly insightful, strategically brilliant, and remarkably prescient. It is, quite frankly, visionary. It outlines a path to sustainable prosperity and social responsibility that this company desperately needs to find its soul again, to build something lasting, something truly meaningful beyond the cold calculus of share price. Then, in a gesture that sent a fresh wave of shock through the already stunned audience, Alistair Sterling, the revered, formidable billionaire CEO, reached into his pocket and retrieved a small, dark velvet box. With a deliberation that seemed to stop time, he moved before Imani and slowly, a little stiffly, lowered himself onto one knee. The collective gasp was audible. Imani's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth in astonishment. Imani, Alistair said, his voice thick with an emotion that was unmistakably genuine, his gaze earnest and vulnerable. You are a woman of extraordinary integrity, boundless compassion, and a truly exceptional intellect. You saved me that night, not just from my own foolishness, but you jolted me from a spiritual stupor I hadn't even realized I was in. You reminded me of what truly matters in business, and in life. He opened the velvet box, revealing a simple yet elegant diamond ring that sparkled under the stage lights. I am an old man, perhaps a sentimental one, perhaps even a foolish one in matters of the heart. But I see a future, not just for Sterling Enterprises, but for myself, a future that is infinitely brighter, more purposeful, and more joyful with you by my side. Imani Washington, will you do me the profound and undeserved honor of becoming my wife? He paused, then added with a hopeful, almost boyish smile that few had ever seen, and will you also be my partner? My full partner, in transforming this company, starting with the implementation of your visionary proposal, to lead us into a new era. Tears welled in Imani's eyes, blurring the sight of this powerful man, so utterly humbled, kneeling before her. She saw not the billionaire titan of industry, but Alistair, a man seeking redemption, offering not just his heart, but a genuine partnership, a chance to finally bring her long-dormant dreams to fruition. Her voice, when she found it, was a soft but clear whisper that carried through the silent hall. Yes, she breathed. Yes, Alistair. I will. The auditorium erupted. Not in polite corporate applause, but in a spontaneous, thunderous ovation, a wave of genuine relief, admiration, and unadulterated joy. Imani, the once invisible janitor, the midnight shadow, stood bathed in the warm glow of the spotlight, no longer a symbol of overlooked worth, but a beacon of vindicated brilliance. She would not just be the future Mrs. Sterling, she was poised to become the moral compass and innovative engine of Sterling Enterprises. Within months, the Imani Sterling Foundation for Ethical Enterprise was announced, heavily endowed by Alastair and the Reformed Company, its mission to identify, fund, and mentor brilliant minds from underestimated and marginalized backgrounds, ensuring no other Imani Washington would ever have her dreams so casually discarded. And so, the grand, imposing world of high finance, which had once scorned Imani Washington, now clamored for her wisdom, her insight, her steady, ethical guidance. The hands that had once tirelessly pushed a janitor's cart, collecting the refuse of a heartless system, now confidently guided a multi-billion-dollar global corporation towards a new dawn, one where profit and principle walked hand in hand. For this is the immutable, often ignored, but ultimately undeniable truth of our shared existence: authentic power is not forged in the crucible of arrogance, nor is it measured by the glitter of hoarded gold acquired through selfish ambition. No, true power resides deep within the quiet, resilient dignity of the human spirit. It is found in the unwavering, unshakable strength of personal integrity, and it blossoms in the profound courage to recognize inherent worth in every individual, especially where others, blinded by prejudice, see none. Prejudice, that insidious cataract of the soul, is a blindfold woven meticulously from the coarse threads of ignorance and eagerly worn by those who fear what they do not understand. It causes society to grievously underestimate the silent brilliance hidden in the most unexpected places, to carelessly dismiss a flawless pearl simply because it is discovered nestled amongst the common grit of daily life. Yet, karma, like the most patient and meticulous of universal accountants, maintains a perfect, incorruptible ledger. Every casual cruelty, every venomous sneer of contempt, every golden opportunity maliciously denied based on superficial judgment or ingrained bias, is meticulously noted, recorded, and balanced. And in the fullness of time, without fail, the bill for such moral debts always comes due. Imani's extraordinary journey, from the shadowed, silent corridors of thankless labor to the illuminated boardrooms of transformative leadership, stands as a resounding testament to the fact that genuine kindness is never a weakness, and true humility is never a mark of inferiority. Her story forcefully reminds us that the most profound vision, the most innovative solutions, often spring from those who have intimately observed the world from the ground up, those who have felt its rough edges and understand its deepest needs. Let this narrative, therefore, serve as an enduring lesson etched into the heart of our collective consciousness. Train your eyes to look beyond the deceptive surfaces, beyond the prescribed labels and societal boxes. For it is often the quietest, most unassuming voice that carries the most profound and transformative wisdom, and it is frequently the most overlooked, underestimated individual who holds the precise key to unlocking a future far brighter and more equitable than you can presently conceive. For in the grand, unpredictable theater of life, it is invariably those who are consistently underestimated who ultimately redefine the very meaning of triumph, rewriting the scripts of possibility. If Imani's remarkable ascent from the depths of invisibility to the pinnacle of deserved recognition has touched your heart and stirred your spirit, please share her inspiring story. For there are countless Imanis in every corner of our world, reservoirs of untapped talent and quiet strength, waiting patiently, or perhaps impatiently, for their own deserved chance to shine, to contribute, to lead. Remember always to diligently seek out the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary, and never, ever, allow yourself or others to underestimate the boundless, world-changing power of a kind heart allied with a brilliant mind, no matter the humble disguise in which you might find them.